So if your stage
If I
name could
went
be like
Noah Scott.
Noah Reed or Noah Scott or
People do think it's Reed a lot, and I just go with it. Like the last MMA gym I was at in Wisconsin, it was like they didn't. I don't think anyone knew my first name for like the first year I went there, and then they all just called me Reed because I think they misheard it, and I didn't. What am I gonna fucking correct people? Who cares? I was like, yep, Reed, that's me.
yeah.
Especially when they can beat you up, it's not worth it to be like, you got my name wrong, and then they're choking you out. It's like, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
Until you can win matches, your name is whatever they think it is.
Yeah.
You know?
Who gives a shit anyway?
Yeah,
I never care.
don't.
Some people get their knickers in a knot when someone says their name wrong. They're like, it's not my fucking name.
Yeah,
I could care less.
It's a pride thing for people who don't have a personality is what it is. Because like people get when they have like nothing going for them in life, then they get really wrapped up in like small things that like insult them. Like you could pull my pants down and spank me. I wouldn't care because like I think I'm a fun person and like I feel fulfilled in life. So it's not going to bother me if you like call me Eric. Like I'll be at the bar and people will be like, what, I'll be bartending. They'll be like, is your name? We were thinking it was like Eric or Zach. I'm like, I would have responded to that. I don't care if people disrespect me, you know? It's like an internal... Plus, I can beat people up. So I don't care if they disrespect me because I always have that in the back of my head.
Yeah.
You know, they like say some mean shit and it's like, I don't care. These people are watching us. Don't look, but they think we're famous for sure.
Yeah. Really?
I think we look like we could be.
We do. We get it all the time.
Yeah, I think if the Hawk Tuah girl can get famous. I love her character arc that she went from like just talking about sucking dick online to probably doing prison time within less than a year.
I think that's what's wrong with the human race when girls like her get famous. No offense.
I think it's great.
I just think it's awful. Like, fair enough. Like, it was entertaining, but then to like invest all this money in her and give her all this, it's like, dude, all she said was she sucked. But you know what, people?
Yeah, but that's a warning. That's a warning for other people who have no skill if they want to be famous. It's like, you're going to fucking prison in less than a year.
Yeah.
Don't say fucking nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I like that she had zero comedy chops, and then they were like, let's make her famous.
What's she even doing now?
Well, I think she's fighting the charges right now. I think that's mostly what she's doing.
For the crypto.
Yeah, she like the defrauding people. And look, I don't read a lot of books, but like, I listen to people who read books, and yeah, she committed some crimes. But they always say it. They go like, they're going to do prison time. It's like no one, if you're white in America, you're probably not, and it's your first one, you're not doing prison time. They always say that. Like, you're going to have to cut this. Like, I don't know if, like, I went to school with a kid. I didn't go to school with him. I knew him at my university, and he, like, got in some trouble for some sexual stuff with a girl. And everyone was like, he's doing prison time. I was like, he's not doing fucking... If it's your first time, they're going to drop it down to... If you hire a lawyer, they're dropping it to something.
Was he guilty?
Oh, he was so guilty. They had like video evidence of...
Was he drunk?
Yeah, I think they were both drunk, but I think she said she had to say, like, knock it off like 8 times before he was like, maybe I should knock it off.
Yeah.
Or I think the roommates like heard it and recorded it for her. Something like that. But I also, you know what pissed me off? There was this kid, because I went to music school. You know that? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
yeah, you play a few instruments, don't you?
Yeah, dude, that's a fucking... I don't know. Like, it's cool for me, but like, I wouldn't mention it to a girl.
Why?
Have you ever... You know what? Do a little experiment. Go to a girl and tell her you play an instrument. And it's going to be like, do you sing? You're going to be like, no, it's not that. She's going to be like, do you play guitar? You're like, no. And then she's going to be like, what the fuck do you do? Because that's always been my experience. Like, I would just lie. I would say yes. Yeah. You play guitar? Yeah. Because I own a guitar. And then they come over and they go, can you play that? I go, not right now. That's just not right now.
Yeah.
So I went to school with this kid. And the thing about, like, I was in the sax studio, which is, like, super competitive. It took me, like, 3 years to get in. It's got, like, a 5 to 10% acceptance rate at that school. Like,
dude, the sax is a fucking cool instrument.
It has its moments. It's okay. It's not a panty dropper. It's just not, especially the stuff I play. Like, I like doing a lot of funk. I like doing a lot of rock. You know, like I used to do Jazz Friday. I'd post like jazz stuff on Fridays. And today I did like a transcription from like a Billy Joel tune. And that's cool. But that only works in the context of if you're on stage playing a Billy Joel tune. Like if a girl comes over and she goes, play something out of the saxophone, just a cappella, I mean, you're not gonna like it. I'm gonna be playing probably a jazz standard with chord changes. Like I could play a blues scale, but out of context, you're not gonna give a fuck. So it's just not, dude. Believe me, I've tried every angle on it. I've learned the best thing is just lie. That's the best. I used to tell girls I was an engineering major because we didn't have that at our school. So like they could never be like, oh, I'm an engineering major. Let's talk. So I would and then they would think I was smart and I made money. And I would always do that. And I was at the bars one time with my buddy, like TJ, my buddy TJ, Quentin and TJ, and they didn't believe me that like telling a girl you're a musician or a music major is so much worse than a musician. But like telling girls that, they didn't believe it didn't work. So like we went to the bars one time and Quentin we're walking and we meet up with some girl, or we like happen to be walking with some girl, and he was like, I'm gonna throw out some majors and you tell me which is sex. And he was like business, and she's like, oh, okay, yeah. And he said something else and she was like, yeah. And he goes, music, and she goes, oh no, and she starts like fake throwing up, and I'm like looking at Quentin the whole time like, yeah, I fucking told you.
Wow.
I
would have thought it would have been a panty dropper. I'm surprised by that.
No. You're talking like the top 1% of 1%ers who do like the Billy Joel thing. But if you're in Wisconsin being like a saxophone player, no one's happy. Like no one's, especially when you don't look like that. Like I looked like I might have gone to school for like business or something. Just play, and it's so much worse to meet someone and then confuse them. Just whatever they think I am, I'm that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Oh, but anyway, I went to school with this kid. Fucking sax studio is very competitive. And during COVID, they kind of shut down the practice rooms. They assigned like 2 practice rooms to the sax players. The studio's like 20 kids large, right? And so we all had to sign in times, and like no one's getting enough practice time, because in college we're all practicing between like 3 and 7 hours a day. Like it's a lot. And no other studio is competitive. Like the trombone studio sucks. The fucking strings were god awful. I mean, they were completely useless. It was the saxophone, the trumpets, the piano wasn't bad, and then there were a few drummers that were really good. But like, so the sax players, we would just use other people's practice rooms and not sign in if they weren't using them. So I'm using this trombone player's room because fuck them, they don't practice, you know. And I'm in there practicing, and this kid comes by, complete teacher's pet. I hated the kid so much. He knocks on it, and he's like, just so you know, this is a tromboner. And he's saying something I don't know. I just shut the door on him because it's like, what are you going to do? Come in here and fucking murder me? I doubt it. You know, I think violence is totally underutilized, and so I was using it to my advantage. It's like, kill me or shut the fuck up, right? Anyway, I hated that kid. He sent an email to like the dean. Dean emails like the whole sax studio. They're like, make sure you're like whatever the fuck. Fast forward, that kid graduates. He becomes a music teacher. First year, got arrested for hooking up with one of his students.
No.
I was so happy. I kept Googling it. I was like, yeah, when's he getting sentenced? I was so happy, that little fucking prick. And the reason, like, she was like 16. He had a girlfriend too.
Oh no, she was young. Like underage.
Yeah, I think he was 24 and she was 16. So like, you know, in medieval times, I think that would have been fine. But you know, it's not. We have soap now, so like you can't do that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I was the reason the parents found out, they were suspecting something, so they left like a recording device in the living room, and then they heard. The article said they heard the teacher's voice in the living room over the weekend while they were gone. But I'm like, what else did they hear? You know, you can't just arrest someone for their voice. But yeah, he didn't do prison time either. It was like, everyone was like, he's doing prison. I was like, he's not doing prison time. Even though he has to register as a sex offender who worked with children, I think he had like a 1.5 probation. Something stupid. I assume he had rich parents who got him like a good lawyer, you know?
Jesus.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's
How
all
can
about
you
your
be
lawyer.
so dumb? I mean, we all know now. You can't plead like I didn't know. Like everyone fucking knows.
So I don't think he was dumb. I think he was ugly and really horny.
Gotcha.
And I think he's a man who took what he can get, you know? Because like as much as I hate toxic masculinity, I think I'm really good at it. And I like to bully people who like use, when they're like, I'm a toxic man, it's like, you're a fucking pussy. I like bullying people because I'm better at it than they are. But I think that guy, I think when he takes his clothes off and he looks at himself in the mirror, he's like, I'm a worthless piece of shit, you know? And I think he saw a girl who gave him attention, and there was probably, when you live, because the thing is, most people kind of live the same life. You live to, there's always like the next thing, right? There's always like high school, and then the next thing is college, and then the next thing is like get a job, and then people panic and they go, oh, after this job, and then they settle down and have a wife and kids, and then it's like, oh, what's the next thing? And then they got to buy a house, and then they're stuck for like 30, 40 years because they basically bought into all these things and they're in massive debt and they've committed to shit, and then 10 years in they hate it. But I think people kind of live these boring lives, and so like they're looking for some little thrill, and that was probably in the back of his head of like, oh, there's this little, I could take a chance and get away with it kind of thing. So I think if you live a stupid, not a stupid life, but a life I don't agree with, which to me is dumb, if it's not the way I view it, it's stupid. So
I get it.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Fuck that guy.
Yeah.
So you're from Wisconsin?
Yeah. You know what? I like that though. I like being from Wisconsin. It's a great place. Yeah. Because I thought New York was like going to be so great. And then I moved out here and all I do is I'm like, fuck you, I'm from somewhere else.
Yeah, yeah.
New Yorkers are the worst.
Well, most people from New York are from somewhere else.
Yeah, and they're fun. The people not from New York, people from New York are awful.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, I used to make that joke about them. I'd be like, first of all, they tell you every 6 seconds. Like, they can't say
that they're
enough.
from New York.
Oh, my God.
Like a vegan.
Yeah, it's the first thing out. It's like they've got Tourette's, dude, every 2 seconds. And then the other thing is the joke was like, no matter where, like what neighborhood they're from, 20 years ago, it was a rough spot. They all brag about it. They're like, oh, yeah, but when I was growing up, Billionaires Row, it was only Millionaires Row. It was real tough back then. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. They're awful. Yeah, I thought New York was going to be like scary or something. They're all kind of pussies, if I'm being honest. Like I moved out here and it's like, I don't think it's dangerous.
I don't think it's dangerous, no.
Yeah.
I think everyone here is super nice though. I think there's like, I haven't met a bad person. Well, I've met some weirdos, but I think everyone in this city's super nice.
Well, I think we hang out with different crowds.
Okay.
So I like bartend in Times Square.
Okay, yeah, we're not seeing the same people.
Yeah, I don't think it's. Yeah. I get a lot of people who come into my bar just to pick a fight, and I just got to sit there and shut it down. That's like my whole job.
Really?
Oh yeah, I had some guy come in the other day for like a burger. He was such a prick. He comes in for a burger, and the whole time he's just trying to fight, and we're busy, and our kitchen is really good, but they're slow. And he's like sitting there at the front. He's like, all right, I have a burger. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I type it in. I stand in front of him the whole time because we're like 3-4 deep at the bar, and I'm just like working, and he's watching me. And like 10 minutes later, which if you're waiting for a burger, you're probably waiting 15 minutes. Like 10 minutes in, he goes, where's my burger? As if I fucking moved from in front of him the whole time. But I was like, hey, it's okay, man. I was like, you know what? Let me send a message to the kitchen. I'll totally ask them. It'll be like, I'll get you an estimate like on it right away. I'm not going to do any of that. Yeah. Right? Fuck that guy. And then he, like 5 minutes later, he's like, where is it? Like, I haven't eaten all day. Like, I'm so hungry. Like, that's my fault or some shit.
Yeah, that's annoying.
Yeah, no, and it's like, at that point, you just want to take his head and, like, smash it into the bar. But, like, you don't, that you stay calm. But I was like, dude, I was like, look, clearly again, but I was like, the moment I see a manager, I'll totally flag him down. The manager's, like, hiding on the toilet because they know that this shit's going on. And I'm like, whatever, 5 minutes later, he's like, I need a burger right now. And I was like, I can't. I was like, you know what? It's okay. If you need to leave, I'll pay your tab. I'm not going to pay his tab. I'm just going to void it out, right? I'm going to play some trickery on the computer so I don't get fucked. I was like, I'll void it. I'll comp your thing. You're totally free to go. If you need a burger right now, it's absolutely acceptable. I was giving him like no resistance to fight back. And he's like, well, what am I supposed to do? I was like, there's a McDonald's right across the street. You can try that if you want. I think that's your quickest solution. I'm just trying to help him. And then he's like, well, I don't want that. It's like, all right, then I don't know what to tell you. And then as he was bitching, the burger came out to him. And he took one bite. He's like, it's undercooked. And I was like, oh my God. I comped the whole thing. I was like, it's totally fine. You're free to go. Get out of my bar. But yeah, they just come in.
Did he eat it?
He took one bite and then freaked out and then he was like, well, I don't want a tab. I was like, you don't have a tab. I paid it. And he was like, what? Why don't? And I was like, yeah, no, I gave you your card back. You're all good. There's like, it's almost like you were never here. And he was just like you could see the mental like gymnastics he was trying to do. Like, how can I fucking fight this guy?
Have you ever had to fight anyone at the bar?
Not when I was working.
Yeah.
Yeah. Only the fights that I picked at the bar when I was off the shift. No, I've had maybe one fight break out at my bar. Because actually, I'm pretty good at like just preventative stuff. Like if you know someone's a problem, you separate them, or it's like fucking babysitting. You know, you just make them sit not right next to each other, or like if someone's trying to pick a fight, you shut it down early, kind of thing. The only fight I ever had was two guys who were on the road with each other for like years, and they were just wasted because I overserved them, and then which is sorry, I'm cool, and then they started like fighting each other, and I just walked over. I was like, thought you guys were friends. And then they were like, oh yeah, you're right. And then they stopped fighting. That was all I had to do.
Wow.
That, and then I had a guy, because I fight MMA and I wrestled forever, I had a wrestling coach who really liked me come in. And then he was trying to pick a fight with some guy, like a 20-year-old kid. Because he was hitting on, basically he had a family friend, a girl who was like, this guy's like 40. This girl who's like 20 is like a friend of the family. She comes up, he starts hitting on her. It's not going well. Her friend comes up and he's like, he tries to be like funny because he's trying to like diffuse it a little bit. And then the 40-year-old starts trying to fight him. And this guy can fight, like he was like a D1 wrestler. And it's him and his 400-pound friend. And they're threatening to fight him. I'm like trying to shut it down. And then he starts freaking out. And I'm like, dude, I have to kick you out. And he's like, I know the owner. I'm like, I literally have to call the cops on you if you won't shut the fuck up. And then I had to cut him off. And he freaked out at me. That was the closest I ever had to get to fighting someone. But that sucked. Because I was like, if I fight this guy, it's him and his 400-pound friend who can fight. They're going to fuck me up. And no one's going to help at this bar. It's going to be just me. And that's what I always think. Every time some shit goes down, I'm like, it's always me. It's always just, no one's going to help. I was on the subway the other day and some guy's freaking out. And it wasn't a big deal because it was just the one guy. But I'm sitting there, like, I had to pause my music. So I'm like, if he fucking jumps this girl, like, that's what he was trying to do. I'm like, if he does that, like, everyone in New York is such a pussy. I was like, it's gonna be me.
You'd have to step in.
It would, yeah, because I was looking around at the train. I'm like, all right, who here isn't a bitch? No one. It's always what it is.
Yeah, it seems like in New York, a lot of people are just so conditioned to the bullshit that they just put their blinders on and walk straight past. Like there's some pretty horrific videos of people getting like women getting harassed on trains and then people just doing nothing. But also the problem is like most people aren't trained or have confidence in themselves. Like I'm not a fighter. Yeah. I've done a little bit of jiu-jitsu, but these guys that are so fucking out there crazy, you don't know what to do. It is scary.
I don't know. Is it, man? It's like they're homeless.
Yeah,
you're gonna let a homeless man bully you? You can't fucking beat up a homeless guy?
I haven't been in that situation, thank God.
I think about it all the time. I'm like, this guy can't pay a mortgage. He's gonna kick my ass. I'm gonna fuck this guy up, dude. I'm gonna fuck him up so bad. That's always what I think.
Really? That's
dude.
Good.
Every time I have that bit, I think
you're trained. You're trained in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I was at MMA this morning.
And what belt are you on?
I don't do belts. I'm not a little bitch, My last gym didn't really do belts. I'm signing up. I'm doing a comp on the 15th. I think I'm going to do black belt at that one.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of trying Boston Crab a guy because that's like, I don't really compete. I just compete for fun. Yeah. So like, I used to post them on TikTok and they would get like 6-figure views just because I would shit talk. You know how people narrate them and they're like, this guy goes for a double leg, but I defend it with this, and then I trade and they're just describing exactly what you're seeing. I would do that, but I would just shit talk. So I'd be like, well, this guy, I would get like drunk for him too. I'd be like, this guy's trying to shoot, but I didn't respect that, and also he's a little bitch. So you can see me smash his head right here, and they would get a bunch of views.
That's
but
funny.
Everyone in the comments was like Boston Crab. So I think I'm gonna try and do.
Is that a move?
Yeah, it's like a novelty. It's not like a real, like I think there's been like 2 submissions in the UFC ever with it. It's one of the rarest ones. But it's basically like you know what a spladle is, like in wrestling? It's where you like split their legs and basically they tap out because you're going to
tear their groin.
But it's a funny move.
Yeah.
That's I'm going to try that. So I'm just going to go for only that. And I don't care if I win or lose.
That's funny.
Point. Yeah.
Jiu-jitsu is fun. I did it for about 8 months.
Yeah.
Pretty solidly. But then I got injured. I got thrown on my head one session and sort of hurt my neck, and then it was never for years. It was just awful. And then I went traveling. I never got back into it, but I'd love to get back into it again.
I would, and I would say you probably went to a bad gym, and not because you got thrown. So a lot of people like at gyms they like don't do takedowns and they don't do throws because they're like people get injured.
No, he was a trainer. He literally got it. He was on his back on the ground, and he fucking like kicked me up with his legs, and then.
Yeah, he elevated you. He was probably trying to go for some leg lock
I think he was
entry.
just trying to be cheeky, you know? Like,
he was probably going for some leg lock entry. And honestly, so was it the kind of gym where everyone wore a gi?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a shit gym.
Is it?
Yeah, I only do no gi.
Okay.
I don't do, if anyone tries to get me to wear a gi, I think they suck. And like I've never lost, I do a lot of competitions. I've never lost to a guy from a Gracie gym because Gracie is far and away the worst gyms out there. They're the McDonald's of jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So jiu-jitsu's
they've got like the best names though, haven't they?
Yeah, that's the idea is like the Gracies are super full of themselves and they're complete assholes. No one likes them. But they kind of like made jiu-jitsu famous. And so they were like the first guys to do it. And they had like one really good guy. And then there were like 50 other guys in that family who sucked really bad. Mm-hmm. And that one guy was like one of the first guys in the UFC before people knew how to grapple. And then he won a bunch of matches, and now everyone's like, oh, the Gracies are the best. Whatever. Right. They suck.
They're all cashing in on the name.
Yeah, they're not good. There are real good gyms out there. Don't post this, because like I go to a gym here in New York. There's really no good gyms in New York. Like they're not good at sports psychology. Like I'm going to start showing up 20 minutes late to every practice because we spent 20 minutes doing no resistance drilling. I mean, what the fuck is that? I'm only interested in sparring. Mm-hmm. That's all I care about, because that's the only way to get better. You learn through doing that. Like there's so many studies that show like if you do something no resistance, it takes about 400 reps to get it. But if you do it in play, which is how all kids learn, which is why kids learn so fast, it takes about like 20 reps. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it's a complete fucking waste of time.
That's what we used to do. He used to show us how to like pass guard in a certain way. And then you would just, he would do like the demonstration like twice, and then you would grab someone and you would do it like 5 times each on the person.
Yeah, but how much resistance were they giving you?
A bit, a little bit. Yeah, it wasn't bad, but they would let you would kind of let them do. They would let you do the move, and then you would try and practice that when you're rolling.
Right, and that's the thing is they teach you like sequences and stuff. We never at my old gym we never did moves or sequences. I don't know any names of moves. Mm-hmm. I do a lot of moves, but like then they'll teach you there's 50 different arm bars. There's one. Control the arm here. Control the arm here. Break it in the middle. That's the only arm bar. Mm-hmm. Ever. There's a bunch of different ways to approach it, but it's the same mechanic, you know? So like the way we would do is like, let's say we were working on body lock passing. We'd start in a body lock and it would just be full live goes, but it would be like, here's the idea. Like, here's the win condition for the top guy. Here's the win condition for the bottom guys. Stand up or get on top. The top guys get past his legs. And we wouldn't say like guard, because guard is kind of a shitty term. It would be like, because guard is just like lower body connections. So we would say like get past his legs, defeat his lower body connections, work to his upper body connections. Mm-hmm. And it would just be like start and body lock passing. And there's basically like 2 main systems to get around, play with them. But the idea is to either flatten his legs out to the ground or to get his legs all the way to his ass and then try and isolate a leg. So that would be like, and then we would just go. And because that's how you learn is live goes. But a lot of gyms really suck and the coaches are super lazy and they don't realize they're lazy. They've just never read one study on sports psychology. You know, maybe they were a good competitor, but they're retired now. And it took them way too long to get as good as they are. Mm-hmm. Like I compete at really high levels. I've only done jiu-jitsu maybe 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I train twice a week. Mm-hmm. Granted, I wrestled my whole life. But wrestling is a much more established sport. And their practices are way better. Because wrestling is like just live goes. Like if you look at the best wrestling... do you know wrestling at all?
We don't wrestle at home.
Yeah, no. Sure. In the U.S., the best wrestling colleges are Iowa and Penn State, and their practices are just all live, and they don't practice nearly as much as everyone else.
I bet it's fun as fuck though, going through school doing wrestling. I would have loved it.
No. Wrestling is the hardest sport on earth.
Really?
It's so bad. Yeah, I quit. I ran track in college because I hated it so much.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's so much pressure because, like, especially if you start at a young age, it's like if you win, no one cares. But if you lose, it's like the end of the world.
Wow.
Yeah, so everyone quits wrestling. No one likes it. Even the people who do it in college hate it.
Really?
Yeah, it's the hardest. And it's so mentally tough. It's emotionally tough. And then physically, you've never fucking...
Yeah.
I mean, the pace, like you've seen wrestling matches, the pace is so much harder than jiu-jitsu because jiu-jitsu is a lot of sitting on your ass. Not the way I do it and not the way the best people do it, which is why I don't do it like that. But good jiu-jitsu, especially in no-gi, all just standing up and like, but the pace in wrestling is, there's so many stalling calls. Like there's no stalling call in jiu-jitsu. Wrestling is like, if there's no action from one of the guys for like 3 seconds, they call stalling. So, like, it's just crazy.
Wow. So, yeah, it's just like go, go, go the whole time.
Yeah, dude. Do yourself a favor. Google an NCAA match and just, like, see how quick they call stalling. Because it's nuts. Like, if some guy's trying to stand up and escape, even if they're working as hard as they can, if they don't return him to the mat in 5 seconds, it's a stalling call no matter what. So, like, they got to run him out of bounds or something. Yeah.
Wild. What's, and so you went to college, you were doing track in college. You were doing the pole jump?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Pole vault.
Pole vault?
You can call it pole jump, though.
Yeah.
I don't fucking...
That's pretty wild.
That's all right.
Fun?
It was fun.
I've never done it, so I'm just asking out of interest.
Yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. The girls were really hot, but I had like no game in college, so I never...
Really?
I only hooked up with one of the track girls, but it was after she was off the team. Especially because the gossip on the team, you don't really want to deal with that.
Yeah.
But that wasn't like the limiting factor. It was the fact that I was a jackass.
Really?
Well, I was always making jokes, and like it took people so long to figure out that I was funny and that I wasn't just like a crazy person. And then once I got really good and I was like leading the team, then they were like, I could say anything I wanted. But when I was a freshman, everyone was like, fuck this kid. They hated me.
Really?
Yeah, it's all like a hierarchy. You know, like when you go to a mic and you got to work up in that clique.
Yeah,
it's
true. If you it's best to like when you are in a new situation to not go in guns blazing.
Yeah, shut your fucking mouth. But I never used to do that.
Yeah.
I still don't do that.
Yeah.
I have never learned that lesson of like shut your fucking mouth.
You definitely have got a lot of energy. You got a lot of like you kind of have figured yourself out in a way.
I would like it if other people were accepting of that, but usually you just got to eat it for a while before they're like, "Yeah, he's all right."
I don't think people are not accepting of that.
No, as I've gotten older, I've gotten better at presenting myself.
Gotcha.
But 10 years ago,
it was tougher.
Oh, so bad. It was so bad because I would just totally do the wrong stuff in front of the wrong people and just double down. It was like real life Tim Robinson shit. So bad. And I would just the only thing that was my saving grace was the track coach was a lot like me and he really liked me. So he told me, he was like, when you were a freshman, people would complain about you so much. He's like, the upperclassmen would be like, we hate this guy. And he was like, I think he's just making jokes. You know, like that's what he would. Yeah. But yeah, it was tough.
So have you always been the sort of guy that makes jokes? Were you always like, is it like class clown kind of jokes? Are you doing it for attention or are you doing it because it's legitimately funny? Like what is it?
Yeah, you know what? And a lot of people do they like, read one paragraph out of a fucking psychology textbook and they go, hey, it's because you like attention or it's because you like, you were traumatized. It's like, you ever think that I was just smarter than you? And I thought of the joke first. You ever think of that? No, like I was, and it's not like I did really well in school. So like, I think it made the teachers mad too, because they couldn't point to me and be like, well, look at Noah, he's a fuck off. And they'd just be like, get out in the hall. Like like we watched the Challenger blow up in high school. You know the Challenger?
Yeah.
The 1980s. Like, well, there was a teacher on board. And the thing too is I was funny and the teachers knew it. So like we were watching it and my social studies teacher, the thing blows up and I yell out from the back. I was like, looks like the teacher got schooled. Right. And then he starts laughing, but he points to the hall and I'll be here all week. So I did get in trouble a lot. But it's not, I always just made jokes. I just think stuff is funny. I don't like to take stuff seriously. I like to take stuff seriously, but I don't take myself seriously.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was similar at school. I was the kid that got sent outside a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
And I was like I didn't mean to, but if I thought something was funny or I could like I would just yell out. I wouldn't, I would
Good.
just, just like, bang. It was like almost an unconscious reaction. And then they'd be like,
Yeah.
see ya.
Yeah, you know what it is? It's just the teachers basically admitting they have no crowd work. That's what it is. It's just them being like, well, I can't refute that. That was really good.
Yeah.
So they got to power trip you, and they're like, get out in the fucking hall. And you're like, yeah, whatever. I'm the fucking man, dude. I used to do that so much. You'd just be sitting in the back just like, I remember I had to give this presentation, and this teacher, like, I did this whole joke for one girl in the front because, like, I knew she would laugh. And it was a presentation on like music, because this was my senior year, and I had just started playing like an instrument basically. And I was talking about jazz improvisation, and there's a bunch of different scales. And I said, yeah, some of the scales were, more difficult than others, but I found the best one to finger was A minor. And I like paused so that in case you missed it, everyone gets it. And this girl, Taylor, starts dying in the front, and the teacher in the back is just I could just see him. He like gave me an F on it. He like called my parents and stuff. And
really?
He emailed the principal, because it was like a really big project.
Okay.
That we had to present in front of community members.
And you just committed, you just wanted that one laugh.
Yeah, and like, well, obviously I wasn't going to do that on the real presentation. This was like the practice one. But like from his perspective, he doesn't know that I'm not going to do that, Because you're like 17 and they're like, well, these kids don't know any better. It's like, no, I did. I also know how to work a fucking crowd, dude. Like, forgive me,
So
no leeway on that shit.
When you finished college, did you stay in your home?
Yeah. So
where did you do college?
Yeah. You wouldn't know it. It was a Wisconsin's the only school that has public D3 schools, so everyone goes D3 in Wisconsin.
What does that mean, D3?
There's divisions. So you've got like the schools you've heard of are all D1 schools.
Gotcha.
Like University of Wisconsin-Madison, or like NYU is a D1 school. It's basically the size of the school.
But that's public, so the government pays for it. You're not.
It's not. They're less expensive basically. Yeah. The government doesn't exactly pay for it, but yeah, you get like your loans and stuff. Or maybe it does. Look, I don't know why I corrected you on that. I don't. I went to school for music. I don't know fuck all.
Yeah.
But Wisconsin has like these D3 schools, and that like every D3 school is a private college. Wisconsin's the only one with public D3 schools that aren't like religious schools that you can just go to, and so everyone goes there. So you wouldn't know it, but it was called University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. That's what it was. And I went there for music. Well, I didn't get in as a freshman because very difficult school. Like the guy who ran the jazz program played for Frank Sinatra in the 80s. Wow. So like it was very elite, which is why I wanted to go there. And so I didn't get in there. And so I went there my freshman year, and I auditioned again, and then they rejected me again. So I've auditioned twice. I didn't get in. So I transferred to Wisconsin La Crosse, so besides Eau Claire, you'd have to go about 500 miles in any direction to find another decent music school.
Wow.
To find one that could compete with it, Like I'd probably have to go to Chicago or like University of Kansas City, Missouri, something like that. So I went to La Crosse, where I obviously got in, and I was a music major there my sophomore year, but it was so bad. I would rather just go to Eau Claire and moonlight as a jazz musician, be surrounded by better jazz musicians than go to a shitty school. And so when I was at La Crosse, I secretly auditioned for Eau Claire again. I didn't know that you only get 3 auditions and then you're cut off forever. So I auditioned again, and then they emailed me and they said, we put you on the wait list. So you're not in, but you're on the wait list. And I had already committed to going back to Eau Claire. Like I already, so I transferred twice to a different school and then back to the first one. So I committed in like October to transferring back. I auditioned in January. They put me on the wait list in January. And then I found out in May that I did get in.
Wow.
So I kind of just took a huge fucking risk.
Wow, good on you.
Yeah, and then I went to school for I think it took me 6 years to get my undergrad, because for 2 years I wasn't in, and then I did 3 years of actually being in the school because I skipped some classes because I had developed some skill at that point. And then at the end of my 5th year, like COVID had happened, and then my advisor was like, "Hey, you're missing 1 credit," and I was like, "What's your job?" Like you were supposed to let me know that. But anyway, because of the way eligibility works, I could do track for another year if I just stayed in school and didn't take classes in the fall and took them in the spring for 1 credit. So I stayed on, and that was the year that like we won nationals. I got my All-American. So I was like really happy to do all that. And so I took, 1 credit, and then I graduated, and I was like, I'm going to save for a couple years and then move to New York. And then, and I wanted to write music for movies. That was like my goal. And so I did a lot of that, and I worked on the cruise ship. I told you about that, right?
No.
Oh, I didn't tell you about that? Oh, Jesus Christ, dude. I could talk for 3 hours about the cruise ship.
Wow.
Basically, I worked a job on a cruise ship as the saxophone, clarinet, flute player. And that was cool. You know, like it had some moments. Like I feel like I played with Shania Twain the one time.
You never told me this.
Yeah.
You've told someone else.
I used to do a lot of jokes about it.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Well, Shania Twain came as a guest on the ship. And then I got to play a gig with her, and then I got to like drink with her afterwards, which was really cool. It didn't change my life or anything, but it's cool when Shania Twain turns and she's like, Noah, take a solo. And then you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And then I sucked. I was really bad at I didn't play well. And then afterwards she she kept pulling me aside and she was like, you're so talented. You're so talented.
She wanted to fuck.
Yeah. That's 1,000% what it was. Cause I was like, dude, I'm not, but I looked around at everyone else on the gig and they're all like 50 years old and disgusting.
Yeah.
And they can't speak English.
Would you have?
Yeah, I would have. Her husband was there, though, and her husband was super cool, dude. It was just me and her husband talking shit about my roommate for the whole night.
Right.
Is what happened. I got to tell you about my roommate, but give me one. But anyway, so I go on the cruise ship, and I'm there for 4 months. It is the worst gig ever. I mean, I can't tell you how bad this job is. Like, they sell you on it's so great. I lived in Italy for a month. I hated that shit. It was so bad. And at that time, I heard back from NYU because I applied to their music movie writing program, and they said, we're not going to let you in. Like early, they let me know, like early rejection. And
wow.
I think my audition was really good. I think it was the paper I wrote that they were like, you're not getting in. Because I was, I let out.
Did you write an A minor joke or something?
No, I just wrote my opinions.
I touched an A minor.
Yeah, I think you've been talking to me for like, what, fucking 40 minutes here. You get probably the things.
I get it. Yeah, you're strong. You got a strong personality. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to a bunch of like music nerds, you could probably be pretty intimidating.
Not the way I play, but the way I am as a person.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean.
I think they hear me on stage play and they're like, this guy sucks. But anyway, so I heard back and they said, and it was such a bad job. And I've been putting off comedy for years at this point. This is a year ago. A year ago, I was still on the ship. Mm-hmm. And I'd been putting off comedy for so long because I knew I was eventually going to do it on like the side for fun. And then they go, you're not in New York University. And I went, all right, I'm going to start doing comedy. Because that was if I didn't get in, I was going to start. And then I started doing it and I started having a lot of success with it. And then I was moving here no matter what because that was always the goal. And so I moved here and I just kind of went all in on it.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a cool story.
Yeah.
And so how long have you been here for now?
3.5 months.
Nice.
Yeah.
And whereabouts are you living?
Astoria.
Okay.
Yeah.
So far, what do you think?
Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
I would love to not live here in 10 years. I would love to live. Maybe in 10 years, I'll love it.
We've spoken about that. Yeah, you'd said you'd like to get like a bit more of a quieter sort of existence.
Well, it's not even that. It's just you give up a lot of stuff in New York. Like you basically give up your life to commuting and paying your rent, which is difficult. So like when I lived in Wisconsin, it was like every day I would wake up, I'd go lift weights, I'd practice my instrument for like 2 hours, 3 hours, whatever it was. And then I'd either go like MMA that night or I'd go to work that night or I would go hang out with friends or something.
Good lifestyle.
Here it's difficult.
Feels the same at home.
Yeah. But it's like, it's just the sacrifice you make early on and like, hopefully it pays off.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, at least I'm not working a desk job.
It will. Ideally, what you would have is you would be set up in a few different places. You'd have a place here.
Right.
And then maybe one in LA or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
My little home in Wisconsin that I go and no one knows I
yeah. You said you were going to tell me about a roommate.
Oh, Jesus
Was this
Christ.
a roommate on a ship?
Dude, this is like everyone asked me about. I can't believe I haven't told you about this. This is like 4 hours worth of.
Well, we haven't really hung out.
Yeah, it's fair.
We haven't really ever sat down.
I wanted to hang out the other day, brainstorm, but honestly, you're like, well, you got to go. I was like, I got to eat. And really what I had plans to play Xbox with a buddy. I'm glad I did it because this whole weekend he's not on. So it was the only time I get to.
Yeah.
But so day one, they basically gave you no instructions. They give you a plane ticket and then they don't tell you anything else. And you're just like, all right. So I go there. And for the first month, the ship wasn't built. All right. So I was just being a construction worker, moving boxes in Italy.
What? How big is this ship? Is it a canal ship or an ocean ship?
It was a cruise ship.
A cruise ship.
It was like a super luxury ship. So it was really small. It only had about like 1,000 passengers, including crew and guests.
So it's a more bougie sort of.
It was like it was the most luxurious ship in the world.
Gotcha. That's a nice ship to get a gig on.
I don't know, man. It actually was worse because there's two types of luxury. There's amenities and then there's how bad they can treat the staff. And I was on the how bad they can treat the staff type of thing. Like every gig we play like 5-6 gigs a day. So we're just working all the time. And you'd, be playing on stage and we always called them the jazz ambassadors, the people who sat up in the front row and they'd listen to you play. And then the moment you get done, you'd just try to leave and they'd hold you hostage and they'd come up and they'd be like, that wasn't very good. No. And you're like, okay, thanks. You're going to be dead soon, but thanks for your opinion.
Wow.
And they'd come up and they'd tell you who was good and who wasn't, you know? And they didn't like me. And I figured out like halfway through the gig that they couldn't hear me because I wasn't mic'd up. So we started micing up and then I started getting a lot more compliments.
Right.
But
what instrument were you playing on the ship?
All of them.
Okay.
Yeah, and so a lot of times all of them the same song.
Sax?
Yeah, I had my alto and my tenor, and then I had a clarinet and a flute. And a lot of times during the production shows, which is like on the big theater stage, I'd play a lot of them in the same. I have a really good video of me where I have no time to switch instruments between because, you've got your in-ears and you've got all the mic'd up horns and there's like 4 wires. And so you've got to like fucking throw them.
Wow.
And you have no space. And so we played some song by the Carpenters and I had to switch between clarinet, sax, and flute. And I have this video on the music stand. It's like me playing and like throw down the flute and I pick up the horn to play like 1 note and then like throw it down to pick up the clarinet to play like 3 notes.
And is this essential to be a professional musician? Do you have to be able to play multiple instruments? Because what always. I'm assuming is you've just saved them 2 other wages. You've saved them from having to. Am I wrong by this?
Almost.
Okay.
So if you're a sax player specifically, it's well known that you have to play clarinet and flute because there's not you're basically playing 90% sax and then 5% clarinet, 5% flute. They're not going to hire a clarinet and flute player to play 10% of a thing.
Gotcha. It's just
and
not.
You're just expected to learn those, and they're called your doubles. So sometimes in your practice room you'd be like, I'm going to work on my doubles, and that means clarinet and flute.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah. So it's basically a means to keep you employable.
Yeah, and it's only for sax players. The bar for saxophone is like crazy high, and then every other instrument, the bar is so fucking low.
Wow.
Yeah, because it's just a competitive. I don't know. It was a bad business decision on my end.
Okay.
To pick saxophone because no one needs a sax player. Everyone needs a drummer. Everyone needs a guitar player. Everyone needs bass. Nobody needs sax. Yeah,
but it's a beautiful instrument.
Yeah, it's all right.
You won't regret it. I used to play the trombone.
Yeah.
Just for a little bit.
Yeah.
That's fun.
I bet your parents thought it was equally fun.
Yeah.
But they were sitting there just like, thank God he's practicing again. Holy fuck. Fucker can't hit a note.
That's the problem with learning an instrument. The curve to getting better is so fucking... It's hard, man.
It's about a 10-year curve to get proficient.
And it's loud. There's no good way to learn an instrument. I don't know how people would do it in the city, in like a small apartments and stuff.
I practice in my apartment every day.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Do you have a roommate? You do, actually. You've told me that.
Oh, yeah.
I bet you piss them off.
Well, no. Maybe. They're singers, so like, singers. They fucking never practice. Dude, singers suck. Singers never practice. They're not good. I don't know. I'm never really impressed. I don't know. Anyway, this roommate, I meant to tell you that. This roommate, so he was 65. No, he was 58. I say 65 in the joke because it's easier people... It's like one of those things where it's like phonetically it just sounds better.
Yeah.
But he was 58. He was French Canadian. So like I used to do an impression of him because he did, I am totally agree with you. That's how he spoke. And he was just, for the first month, I thought he was totally fun and like a really great guy. And he could play like hell. He had played with all these famous jazz musicians and he was nuts. He was a guitar player. I mean, he made Stevie Ray Vaughan look like a fucking chump. Like he was so good.
Wow.
And
so big respect initially.
Initially.
Yeah.
And then, but then once we got on the ship and alcohol was basically free, the guy was fucking nuts. I mean, he would come into the cabin drunk. I mean, the cabin is smaller than a fucking bathroom. Like, you have no space.
Is it a bunk?
Yeah, it's a bunk. And he would come in at like 2 to 4 a.m., completely blackout drunk. He'd like just punch me in my sleep. He would fall asleep on the toilet. He shit in the shower. That's like his claim to fame is he pooped in my shower like multiple times. And I texted him about it, and I was like, I texted him a picture of the shit, and I said, why would you do that? And he texted me back verbatim. He goes, it was cold and dark. Well, fuck me to tears, buddy. What does that mean?
What?
I was pissed. I was like, you're going to come back and you're going to clean this shit up. And he didn't. It was like the housekeeper who did.
What a fucking degenerate.
I got him fired for that, but it really wasn't even that, but he would come in with black eyes and I'd be like, what happened this time? And he'd be getting in fights at Crew Bar with like the Filipino dudes because he was just racist.
God.
He was nuts, dude. He was so fucking nuts.
Frenchman? You said Frenchman?
French-Canadian.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
okay.
he just, I am totally agree with you. And he would come in every night because these guys were like, because everyone on that ship was handpicked except for me. I just got in because they needed a player. But like, so he was really good. And I was like, when I first started the gig, I was like not at their level. And by the end of the gig, I was playing a lot better. But in the beginning, he would come in and he would be like, today you play a little better. And then he would every day. And I never asked him. I was like, he would critique all my solos. And I was like, I never gave a fuck, you know? And then the next day, today a little better. You know? And then eventually we had this one gig, we were playing Latin tunes. And I really wasn't much of a Latin player, but whatever it was, I played really well that day. And he comes back, he goes, today you play for real. This is like 3 months in.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, and at that point, I just thought, go fuck yourself. You know? Dude, you've been pooping in my shower for how long? You think I give a fuck that you think I'm good? That was like one of those things. I used to like really look up to people. But like as I keep accomplishing things, I just start being like, nah, they're just people.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Yeah.
You know, like when I was wrestling, you'd always have these scary like big name kids. And then the coaches would be like, dude, behind that singlet, it's just a kid. You know, they'd be like, it's just a guy. Like, they bleed just like you. Like, they're fucking, they have emotions and everything. Like, you got them. You know, like, anyone's beatable kind of thing. And that's kind of what I learned is, like, I could play really well, but it wasn't consistent. Like, his name was Eve. He played super great every single solo, every single day. That's what made him great. I played really great sometimes, but if I could replicate, so you can do it once, and it's like, it's not like a thing you can't touch, but the more you can do it consistently, that's what makes you. You know, like you might have a joke that murders, but like Bill Burr is going to go up and basically murder every joke. You know, but you might have one, but as long as and you can keep building that, then that's what makes you like that top tier. But it was like a good lesson of like, I used to revere people, I used to like respect people's opinions, and then, you know, like the greatest guitar player in the world is pooping in my shower and you just go, all right, nobody knows what they're fucking talking about. It's like, you know, it was like that. He goes, today you play for real. Shut the fuck up, dude. I have that solo. That one's posted on my Instagram, the solo I took that he goes, that was a good solo. Yeah.
Nice, man. What a fucking interesting person you are.
Thank you. I do my best, you know. I feel like I'm talking all about myself. No, I should be better at asking. That's
the point of this.
That's like when you go on a date with a chick and she's like, all you did was talk about yourself. Fuck, dude. Fuck, your boobs are cool. Who was? I think that was Steven DeMarco who said that at some. It was like Black Cat. And he was talking about a guy who went like to a girl at a bar and he's just drunk. He just went, your boobs are cool. And then she went home with him and he's like, he let the little kid win.
Wow.
And that's what I've been doing on Hinge. That's my new openers. Your boobs are cool. And it's working. It's working.
Man, this is a good city to be single in.
Yeah. It's a really good city if you're not looking to like date long term, which I'm not.
Yeah.
Because like I have goals I want to accomplish. And like already my time is allocated to everything. Like I couldn't be. If you came here with a relationship, you're good. But if you're trying to find one, like, it's tough. And so, like, I'm so glad I'm not looking for that. Great. Because in Wisconsin, it was everyone wanted, and I look like the type of guy who's, like, wants to settle down and have a house and, like, 2 kids. And so, like, I would just have to lie to chicks so much. I'd be like, that's exactly what I want.
Yeah, I used to do that dating.
I work a salary job.
You can't go into a date and be like, oh no, I just want to casually fuck.
Yeah.
You have to be like, yeah, I'm open to anything. We'll just see what happens. You got to kind of.
Yeah. Never ask women for advice on that. So be like, no, girls like it when you're straightforward. No, they don't. No, you're so dumb. It's like, dude, I love saying this to girls. I'm like, how many women, they're like, no, I know what girls like because I'm a girl. It's like, how many women have you taken back to your place and then fucked? 0?
Yeah.
I don't want your advice.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, but I'm a girl. So it's like, you know what you specifically want. You don't speak for everyone. We're like country music when it comes to dating women. We're trying to cast the widest net possible to bring in like the most people. We're not trying to like sniper it down and nail. Yeah, if you want to give your specific advice how to get you, that's great. But I don't know this girl's life story. I just have to like read the room and try to adapt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that saying, I don't know how it goes, but it's like you don't ask a fish how to catch a fish. You ask a fisherman how to catch a fish.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, but they just love to tell you. It's like, that's not what I would like. It's like, well, you're not hot, so I'm not worried about it, you know? Like,
so where with your writing, like with comedy,
yeah.
it's good. I like your comedy, by the way.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, you're fun to
Appreciate it.
watch.
Hey, you're a funny guy too.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I like it when you touch me like that.
yeah. I try not to give compliments because it's a bad thing to do when someone gives you a compliment. You just shoot it right back because it seems insincere. But I do mean it. You are funny. I like you. That's why I'm here.
No, thank you.
If you were some jerk off, I would have just been busy.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. But yeah, I what I like about you is actually you remind me a little bit of myself in the sense that you've got
like the cool part of yourself, or
you've got life experience and you've got stories, and I feel like I'm the same. I've got life
that's right.
experience.
You were like the first guy to tell me that.
And I've got stories as well, and I got short bits, but I also view myself like where I'd love to go with comedy is, I would love to have a good mix of like short punchy stuff.
Yeah.
But then, say I'm doing an hour but then like, a couple of good long stories at the end.
That's how everyone who's good does it.
And I see that in you as well. And you tell a great story.
Yeah.
And so tell me, like, what is your process to writing? This is something that I try and ask everyone because I think it's really interesting, especially for everyone that's coming up.
Fuck.
Like, is it, and also how do you write? What's your process? Yeah, just hit me with it.
Yeah, I don't really think about my process. So this is me trying to analyze it as I'm talking.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to stories, you ever date a girl who like tells a story and it just sucks?
Yes.
Right. Because there's no climax. There's no point of like, there's no rising action. It's basically how you would write a book, right?
I honestly, like a lot of girls, a lot of people tell a shit story. I can't stand it. Sorry, women, but this is the worst way to tell a story is when they're like, and then I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this,
Kill
and
myself.
then I did. Oh my god!
Yeah.
I just like.
Yeah,
there is something to learn from that as well.
Yeah.
I feel like when I'm in front of someone and they're telling a bad story, I'm like, okay, I've got to be conscious of this because I don't want to tell a story like this.
Yeah.
I don't want to keep hitting high notes and have no tone and no. I try,
Right.
you know what I mean? But
You've
anyway.
also described like the ecological approach for learning. Like look at the people who are good, try to emulate it, repeat.
There you go.
But basically, if I'm telling a story, when I write one-liners, because I actually disagree with I hate the way a lot of open micers do comedy. I hate it so much, and I bomb a lot of stuff. And I'll talk about that in a second, but I don't mind bombing at all. I love doing it. I love going to tough mics. Like I really like the brainstorm mic we did the other day, but the issue is like it's too supportive. Like everyone kind of knows everyone and they were laughing. And I was saying, I think it was like to Joe the other day, I was like, no, I want to go to a mic where no one likes me. And it's like, because then I got to win them over. And it's not like the idea of winning them over, but like if they are going to laugh at it, that means I know it's funny and it's not they're just giving me fake laughs. And then there were some people like, no, but eventually you want it. And I was like, no, like I don't, when I go to an MMA gym, I don't want no resistance. I want these guys to give me live looks because I don't care about being well-liked by open micers. I don't care about this. I want to be good at what I do. That's all I fucking care about. And like, hopefully I get big doing that 10 years from now, but it's not going to happen if you're not good. That's like the issue with like, I don't want to, there are certain TikTokers who are famous and they're not good. And it's because they got famous on TikTok. Now they've got an audience. And so there's no resistance. Like Bill Burr, Louis C.K., these guys weren't famous for like the first 8 years of their career. So they just got really good for 8 years. And then by the time they were famous, like, do you want to be famous before you're good?
No.
That's the Haley Welch method.
No, but I do think there is a balance in creating opportunity. You still have to try and create opportunity even when you're not good. You have to.
Yeah.
This is the trap that I see a lot of people falling in is they're not pushing to try and get in front of live audiences very often. And like you say about Brainstorm, like I love Brainstorm, but I don't do that every week. Yeah. I just try and hit different mics and try and hit different rooms as well because I view it as like that's how you get better is not doing the same thing and not being in those supportive rooms. But sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I think it is. I think it is. The trick is you don't want to get better before you don't want to get too much opportunity before you don't want to get famous before you're good. But you have to get in front of a live audience straight away. Like you don't have to sit. You don't have to sit and do mics for a year and wait till you can get in front of a live audience right now.
Right. No, I don't disagree with that at all. But I do. Yeah, there is like this idea of like, I do want to name specific names, but like TikTok people, and not that we know them personally, but like I'm just like, you're okay, but you're never going to reach that next tier of like Bill Burr kind of stuff because it's like people, they basically do one-liners because right now, because of TikTok, it's super encouraged to do one-liners because that's the attention span. But nobody who I look up to or nobody that I want to be like is a one-liner comedian. So they write stories because that's when you hear a story, you want to know where it goes. And like sometimes people aren't like, you saw that set I did at Rodney's and like, basically the first half of that set I talk about playing clarinet and it doesn't get a lot of laughs. But I basically sacrificed that first half to get a really big laugh at the end where I say, like, the girl comes into my room and she goes, oh, is that a piss bottle? And then I go, no, look at that. And she goes, oh, is that a clarinet? And then that got the biggest laugh of the night for my set was the clarinet joke. But it's like it took exposition to get there.
It's funny you say that because, like, I'm working. I've got a like a 6-minute monologue that I'm doing on shows now, and it's about being
you gotta talk really fast to get that in a 5-minute mic.
Well, this is where I'm getting at. It's awful at a mic. I'm not getting big laughs at a mic.
Yeah.
And I don't get big laughs at a show when I just do that. But if I do some of my older material and win them over, then that material works really good because they're on my side and they're with me on it.
Right.
It's a bizarre thing. There's so many different elements to this. So yeah, I can understand why you have to. Sometimes you gotta. You gotta crack some eggs to make an omelet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's not like I always just try to not crack eggs, but just inevitably you are going to fuck up. That's just as long as you're trying as hard as you can all the time, you just will fuck up, and that's a necessary part of. But like failing, like I try to bomb a lot of mics because it's like you see the same people do like the same 5 minutes over and over, and people go like, "Oh, they're funny." It's like for now, they're funny for now. But I'm trying to be funny 10 years from now. And so like you see the same people go around to mics and like they kill mics, but that's their only jokes. It's like when I have a good set that I know works, I put it the fuck away and then I work on new stuff. And it looks like I'm a shitty comedian because I'm just going out and bombing new stuff. But it's like, dude, I'm building a repertoire. And it's like, I'm also learning how to just like get new stuff in front of new people and have it work. Like it's just, I think it's better reps. Like you can just rip the same joke that you know is going to work, but I don't know what good it's doing you.
I kind of disagree. I don't agree. I mean, I agree that you should like I think that there's something in the reps. Yeah. Just doing the same thing over and over. And that's the hard thing is though, the problem is with mics, when you do it in front of the same people and you're doing the same shit is you start getting in your head because you're like, these guys are fucking seeing this all the time. So,
I think about it.
Then I stop enjoying it. But I've got like some tried and true material that I do constantly on shows and it just gets tweaked a little bit. Yeah. Just a little bit each time and it's getting better and better and better.
Right.
So there is a balance. There is a balance.
No, on shows, rip the same fucking joke over and over. I have no problem with that. Shows are always new people. But I just like, when it's like, if you have limited mics, like I'm always trying to work new stuff. But I will rip old stuff because like you do have to get the reps. And there is like, if you're like, all right, this joke isn't perfect. It's like 90% there, but there's a little part in here that I want to improve. It's like, keep ripping it.
Yeah.
I have a few jokes like that I have on the shelf right now where I'm like, these they work on shows, but like there's room, and I'm not sure where, but there's room to improve them, Anyway, back to stories because I totally got sidetracked. Yeah. But like, if you ever watch a good movie, I kind of think about it like that, where it's like, do you know the idea of Chekhov's gun? So it's like the idea that if there's a gun on the wall and a character mentions it, that gun should come back at some point. So everything should be relevant, right? So like when you tell a story, you've got exposition, rising action, climax, and resolution. The climax is basically the punchline, right? So a lot of times in jokes, there's not really the resolution. But like, so you tell the important parts that they need to know that's going to come back, and then you describe how you got there, and then there's like the punchline, And the punchline, and this is where I beef with a lot of open micers, because I have a joke about pizza delivery that's like, it does really well on shows. But I don't really do it at open mics because open micers hate it. The reason open micers hate it is because open micers are super into getting the most laughs they can. And sometimes I sacrifice those laughs because people are listening. Like they want to... like open micers are really into this idea of like set up, punchline, set up. And they're really into this idea of like setting up and then diverting. That's the punchline. The punchline has to be like a diversion of what you thought was going to happen. But when you watch Bill Burr, when you watch Louis C.K., a lot of times they tell stories and there's not really a setup, diversion, punchline. It's just the way they say it is hilarious because you can tell they're completely put out by what they have to say. So when I do this pizza delivery joke, it works in front of crowds because I'm telling it to people who have worked real jobs. And the joke is about like just the fucking day-to-day shit of like I
know exactly what you're saying. Yeah. I know exactly. And I don't know if you've ever done this. Because I asked, one of the questions why I ask about people's writing is because I'm interested. I believe one of the best ways to get good is obviously performing, but also writing. I think writing, it's almost like it's a code, it's an algorithm. It's just another skill to learn. So I sometimes I've only done this a couple of times, but Louis C.K. is one of my favorite comics. Mm. And the other night I just had a look at, I was like, I wonder if I can have a look at if his script for one of his specials. Yeah. And sure enough, it's there. Oh, and really? I just read it and I was reading through and I was like, this is so interesting. Like you say, there isn't the big fucking flip. There isn't the big surprise. It is just him telling a story. Yeah. And it's a small punch, but it's not like a open mic, flip it. I didn't expect that. You know what I mean? It's just, it's almost a story. It's like a little comment on something. A story, then he comments on something. And it's that little comment that is the funny punchline.
Right. And so when I watch those guys, I go, I want to be like that because they're good. Obviously, when you watch their early stuff and they're doing 5-10 minute sets, it's a lot punchier, but they're still telling stories. And I think it takes longer for that type of style to break through because you see a lot of like open micers start to get shows right away, and it's like, and you're like, how the fuck they're not good? But it's like, because a booker saw them and they told like, set up punchline. And they're getting a lot of laughs, but it's not a big laugh. And no one remembers it. When I think of a lot of these one-liner comedians, like I know their face, I know their name. I can't remember one joke they told though. But when I think of Bill Burr, I think of Louis C.K., I can name their jokes because they're stories.
Because they're stories, yeah.
When I think, like, because you could name probably a few of my jokes. You could name the jail story for sure.
I can that's the story that comes to my mind. Yeah,
exactly. The one where and that's one didn't get huge laughs, but people were fucking listening is the thing. Because the content of it is interesting.
Yeah.
So like you think of that or like the lesbian roommate joke. It's like you can name the jokes because they're actually like worth hearing. It's not just like a set up punchline. I got a little laugh. All right, that's my success. It's like, fuck off. It's so dumb. And like I have a few of those, and they're good to throw in there to kind of. It's like when when teachers have you do writing assignments in high school, and they're like, not every sentence should be 3 words or 10 words. It should be there should be an ebb and flow. So I try to do that. Like I had the best joke I had online. Got like 6-figure views, and it was like a story about Domino's. And just some lady calling and wasting my time. And there's really no punchline to any of it. But on shows, it does really well. I do it at open mics. I don't get a laugh. Because you're doing it to comics. And comics, you have to understand when they're listening. They're trying to think of, where's it going? I'm trying to think of the punchline. And they're not like fucking listening to just like, if you can just tell it and you're like, they can tell that you've lived a life and you're just fucking annoyed with these people. It's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And that works on shows to real people, but you're doing it in front of a bunch of comics who are like, wow, that's not what I would have said. It's like, yeah, because you're not funny. So that's probably why, I don't know.
I get it. Yeah. So how do you write? Do you type? Do you pen? Do you note? Yeah. Everything's notes on your phone?
Yeah, it's just notes on my phone.
Another thing I admire about you is when you I've seen you do, I haven't seen you a lot, but what I have seen is you're very deliberate in the way you speak, and you tend to say it quite well the first time that I hear it, whereas I'm not naturally gifted in that way. It takes me...
Nothing natural about it, man. I practice it at home before I do it on stage. I don't go to open mics unprepared. I think that's such a waste of time.
Yeah.
People who are like every once in a while, like if I have no material, which is never the case, I have like this is how I just write down. I write down like usually the whole fucking joke as I think of it.
Yeah.
And then I'll write like the punchlines in here, or maybe I'll just write down like a one word for a joke that I know how it goes. But like this one, I wrote out basically the whole fucking thing.
Nice. Okay.
Well, so I think of the joke and then I rehearse it and I practice it
out loud.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I practice it. I don't know how many times, however many times it takes that I'm not going to fuck it up. Yeah. And then I go on stage and then I tell it at an open mic. I don't go to open mics unprepared because like if I was Louis C.K. and I had a bunch of money and I was able, yeah, I probably would do that. But like, I'm not. Open mics are my shows.
Yeah.
Those are my best opportunities to get myself out there. So like, I don't fuck around.
Gotcha.
I know I paid 5 minutes for this time. I've got this much time. I want to use it.
Yeah.
You know,
that's
it's like
good. That's a good way to think. I think I should be, that makes me feel like could definitely prepare myself a lot more for mics.
Sure. When you go, do you not run through the jokes beforehand, or do you just write down an idea?
A lot of the time I will write down ideas, but I don't memorize it, and it would just be half baked. But then also because of that, I have dropped ideas earlier than I should have because it didn't feel good when I did that. I didn't say it well, and I'm like, okay, it's bad.
Yeah.
I didn't put the preparation in. So that is something that I need to work on a lot more.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it bombs the first time, do you just throw it out? Or
Not
do you
necessarily.
bomb it like 4 or 5 times and then go, all right, that's whatever. I thought it was funny.
I've thrown a lot of stuff out off one go because I'm like, I just didn't like it. It just didn't feel good. I thought it. There's been heaps of times like I'm sitting at home like, this is funny. And then I'll be up on stage, be like, oh, that was bad. It wasn't funny. What was I thinking? It's almost like, a certain amount of delusion.
I never really think, what was I thinking? I think in my head, like, are you not fucking getting it? I know it's funny. You guys are stupid. Like, I don't know.
I like that.
I'm not a fucking, and it comes from doing things like working a job with a guy who pooped in my shower for 4 months and telling me I was a retard the whole time. And then, 4 months in, you go, dude, you're a drunk and you've been shitting in my shower. I'm not wrong. I was right the whole time.
Do you think it helps as well that you've, like you're from a creative industry. You're from a creative background. You're used to picking up like instruments. I mean, that's reps and reps and reps. I mean,
it's a lot more blue collar than I think people
I'm not
think it is.
excusing anything for my life because I take full responsibility. But I've always been blue collar. I didn't start doing comedy till I was like 29, 30. And I only touched on it a little bit at home and then kicked it up again here. But I just would say I'm not naturally that way inclined. It takes a lot of work, and I wonder if you do have in a way, it's having those skills of music have taught you the best way to act creatively, and it is. You're right. It's reps and reps.
Yeah,
and
so I don't know. I would
blood.
have argued a few points in what you said. The first being like, it really irks me when people say, "Oh, someone's naturally gifted. They're naturally talented." This is a thing I've argued with people forever, and it's one of those ones where I've never convinced anyone of my side. I know I'm right. I'm just waiting for everyone else to get there, And people tell me I'm wrong every day of my life, and I go, fuck you.
Yeah.
I know I'm fucking right because I lived it. Talent doesn't exist. It's not a real thing in anything. I've never, people are like, well, naturally, he's a really good basketball player. Basketball is a completely arbitrary fucking thing we made up. Nobody comes out of the womb fucking dunking basketballs. That's such a stupid point. Like music, they go, oh, well, music is like a natural. It's like the music notes we picked are completely arbitrary. They're based off of like basically the way we got our scales in the Western Hemisphere is like when you play a note, there's all these other notes that are like actually like very quiet. You basically can't hear them. But they're in that one note, and from that we derive like the major scale, and that's where you get like your natural scales, and then you get like things like the synthetic scale, which aren't based on that. But the point is like all those things are arbitrary, but people go, they're naturally talented. Oh, he came from a musical family, he must be naturally talented. Dude, he's been playing bass since he was 4 years old.
He's put the work
Yeah, he's put the fucking work in.
Yeah.
Or like,
I hear you.
When you're a kid, there are certain things that influence the way, or people just suck at learning. Like I get accused of being naturally talented at stuff because I pick stuff up quickly. I got good at learning early on. The guy I took saxophone lessons from lives in New York. I took him over FaceTime. He really affected the way I learned because he basically was, when we learned, he was like, all right, people are going to give you books. They're going to tell you all these procedures. He taught me it's what's called the ecological approach. And it's the way I trained MMA at my last gym. It was like, you basically take the most efficient route to learning. You look at what the people who are good and what they do, and then you just try to emulate it, and then you do live reps. If you're doing dead reps of no resistance, and like in MMA, that means they're not trying to stop you. When you're doing music, it's like if no resistance would be like you're practicing to a backing track instead of playing a live gig. Or like if you're doing comedy, it's like because like dead reps would be like you saying a joke 50 times in your room by yourself. You've got really good at telling that joke, but is it funny? you don't know. You got to go out and do it in front of people. So it's like, I'm just good at learning, and then other people suck at learning, and then they go, well, you know, I'm not naturally talented. It's like, no one is. You just
got to put in
some fucking work.
I hear. Well, we're just about out of time.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah,
let's do this again.
Yeah.
What's your socials?
Oh, it's Instagram is at noah.reedy97. I think that's TikTok, I guess, is Little Pizza Boy's Dream. That's nice. I'll show you that video after this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guys, Noah Reedy, absolute legend. Look out for him. He's a champion.
Thanks.
Mate.
Thank you.
Pleasure. See you in the next one, guys.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to this episode of Going After It with Cam Bird. Produced by Cam Bird, co-produced by Ryan Rizzuti and Shreya Suresh. Music by Brian Rigby. If you've enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe. And if you can, remember, get after it.